Earth issued its ultimate warning: step beyond and face complete destruction. Part 1: The Boundary Stone. The galaxy was huge. Billions of stars, millions of planets, thousands of species fighting for space, for resources, for power. Every species wanted more. More land, more systems, more control. That was the rule of the universe. Grow or die, expand or be conquered. But humans were different. Captain Park stood on the bridge of her ship, the Silent Watch, and looked at the massive structure floating in space before her. It was a boundary stone, a monument made of black metal and strange crystal, twice the size of a mountain. It floated at the edge of human space, broadcasting the same message over and over again in every known language. This is human territory. We do not expand beyond this point. We do not permit others to cross this point. This is not a request. This is humanity's only warning. There were hundreds of these stones. They formed a line around the 12 solar systems that humans called home. Not a wall, not a weapon, just a warning. Lieutenant walked up beside his captain. He was young, barely 30 years old, with sharp eyes and a quick mind. "Captain, the fleet is still approaching. 3,000 ships. They'll reach the boundary in 6 hours. Did not move. Her face showed nothing. Have they responded to our message? Yes, Captain. Looked uncomfortable. They said they will use our boundary stones as target practice. Almost smiled, almost. Of course they did. The Dominion was the largest empire in this part of the galaxy. 600 worlds, dozens of conquered species, an army that had never known defeat. When they wanted something, they took it. When someone refused, they destroyed them. And now they wanted human space. On Earth, Admiral sat in the Great Hall of the Unified Defense Council. Around him sat the leaders of humanity, presidents, generals, scientists, all of them watching the screens that showed the approaching fleet. 3,000 ships, said one general. We have 400. This is not a war we can win. No, agreed. His voice was calm. He was an old man with white hair and tired eyes, but his mind was sharper than anyone in the room. This is not a war we can win, because we will not fight a war. The room went quiet. Admiral, said a young politician, are you suggesting we surrender? Give them our worlds, our people? Looked at her. No, I am suggesting we remind the galaxy why we built the boundary stones in the first place. He stood up slowly. 200 years ago, humanity almost destroyed itself. We built weapons that could crack planets. We created diseases that could kill billions. We made machines that could think faster than us, fight better than us, hate better than us. We looked into the darkness of our own souls, and we were terrified of what we saw. He walked to the window and looked up at the stars. The boundary stones are not meant to keep others out. They are meant to keep us in, to remind us every single day that we chose to stop. We chose limits. We chose to be better than what we were. He turned back to the room. They think we are weak because we do not expand. They think we are cowards because we do not conquer. They are about to learn the truth. And what is the truth, Admiral? Asked the general. His eyes grew cold. That we are not peaceful because we cannot fight. We are peaceful because we know exactly what happens when we stop being peaceful. He pressed a button on the table. All ships, all stations, all colonies. This is Admiral. Activate the silence protocol, effective immediately. Across human space, everything stopped. Ships turned off their engines. Stations went dark. Colonies shut down their power. No signals, no movement, no sound. To the watching galaxy, it looked like humanity had simply vanished, like they had given up, run away, hidden like frightened animals. They laughed. Their ambassador sent a message to the galactic community. The humans have shown their true nature. Cowards. We will take their worlds before the week is done. But some species did not laugh. The old ones. The ones who had seen empires rise and fall. They looked at the sudden silence from human space and they felt something cold in their hearts. Fear. Because they remembered the old stories. The stories of a species so dangerous that they built a cage around themselves. A species that looked at the stars and said, "No, this is enough. We will go no further." Not because they could not, but because they knew what would happen if they did. Captain Park sat alone on her dark bridge. The silent watch drifted without power, invisible against the black of space. Around her, 400 human ships did the same, waiting, watching. His voice came through the emergency radio, barely a whisper. "Captain, we'll cross the boundary in 1 hour." "I know," said. "What do we do?" Closed her eyes. She thought about her daughter on Earth, her mother in the colony on New Sol, all the people she had sworn to protect. "We do what we always do, Lieutenant. We give them one final chance to turn back, one final warning, and if they ignore it." She opened her eyes. In the darkness they seemed to glow. "Then we show them why the boundary stones exist." The hour passed slowly. The fleet moved closer and closer. 3,000 ships, armed with weapons that had destroyed entire civilizations. They crossed the invisible line in space. They passed the boundary stones without stopping. They entered human territory. And somewhere in the darkness, something very old and very terrible began to wake up. Stood at the center of his flagship, the Conqueror's Pride. He was massive, even for 8 feet tall, with skin like gray stone and 4 arms that had killed more enemies than he could count. He had conquered 30 worlds. He had broken armies. He had never lost. And now he was going to add humanity to his list of victories. "Report," he growled. His officer bowed low. "We have crossed the boundary, no resistance, no ships, no weapons fire. The humans appear to have abandoned their space." Laughed. It was an ugly sound like rocks grinding together. "Cowards. I expected at least some fight from them, some dignity in their death." "Perhaps they fled to there," suggested the officer. "Perhaps they hope to defend Earth itself." "Then we will crush Earth and everything on it," waved his hand. "Continue forward full speed." But not everyone on the ship was laughing. Observer was a scientist, small and thin, with careful eyes that noticed everything. He had studied the boundary stones for months before the invasion, and something about them bothered him. He walked to the sensor station and looked at the readings. The boundary stones were still active, still broadcasting their warning, but they were doing something else too, something hidden. "These stones," he said quietly to the technician beside him, "they are not just monuments. Look at these energy readings." The technician looked. His face went pale. That is a scanning beam, extremely advanced. It is reading everything about our fleet, every ship, every weapon, every life form. And transmitting the data somewhere, finished. The humans are not hiding. They are watching, counting, preparing. He hurried to find. "We need to stop. The boundary stones are." "I know what the stones are," interrupted. "They are the last monuments of a dying species. Let them watch their doom approach. It changes nothing." "But enough," his voice was cold. "You are a scientist, you study things, I destroy them, know your place." Step back. There was nothing more he could say. He returned to his station and watched the sensors, waiting for something he could not name. For 1 hour nothing happened. The fleet moved deeper into human space. They passed empty stations, abandoned colonies, ships floating dead in the void. Everything was silent, everything was dark. It was like flying through a graveyard. Some of the soldiers began to feel uncomfortable. The silence was wrong. It felt like being watched by something in the darkness, something patient, something hungry. Then a single light appeared. A small ship, human design, unarmed. It appeared out of nowhere, right in front of the fleet. It was tiny compared to the massive warships around it, like a mouse standing before 1,000 lions. "What is this?" demanded. "One ship. They send one ship to stop us." The ship began broadcasting. Every screen on every vessel showed the same image, a human woman in a simple uniform. Her face was calm. Her eyes were steady. She looked like someone who had already seen how this would end. "I am Captain Park of the Earth Border Fleet," she said. Her voice was quiet but clear. "You have crossed humanity's boundary. You have received humanity's warning. You now have one standard cycle to retreat beyond the stones." Laughed or what? "You will ask us nicely to leave." Continued as if she had not heard him. "After this period, no further communication will occur. No negotiation will be offered. No surrender will be accepted." The laughter on the ships began to fade. Something about her voice, something about her eyes. She was not afraid. She was not angry. She looked sad. "We asked only to be left alone," said. "That is all we ever wanted, just to live in peace within our borders. You refused. You chose to come here. You chose this path." She paused. "What follows is not war. War is when two sides fight. What follows is consequence. The consequence of ignoring humanity's warning." For a moment no one spoke. The whole fleet was silent. Then roared with anger. "Kill her, destroy that ship." 100 weapons locked onto the small vessel. 100 triggers were pulled. But the ship was already gone, vanished, like it was never there. "Find her," screamed. "Find that ship." But the sensors showed nothing. The small ship had disappeared completely. No trail, no signal, nothing. Observer looked at his readings and felt his blood go cold. The ship had not jumped to another location. It had not used any known form of travel. It had simply stopped existing in one place and started existing in another. That was impossible. That broke every law of physics he knew. Unless the humans had technology far beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Unless they had been hiding their true power all along. Said, his voice shaking, "We should retreat now while we still can." Turned on him with fury in his eyes. "Retreat? From one small ship, from a species of cowards? Never. We continue forward. We will find there and burn it to ash." But the technology they just showed is a trick, an illusion. They want us to be afraid. Smiled, but it was not a pleasant smile. "I am not afraid, and I will teach these humans what happens to those who think they can frighten the Dominion." He gave the order. The fleet moved forward. On every ship, clocks began counting down. One standard cycle, 24 hours. And somewhere in the darkness of space, Captain Park watched the fleet continue toward Earth. She had done everything she could. She had given them every chance. They had chosen their path. Now they would face the consequence. She opened a channel to Admiral. "Sir, they refused the warning. They are continuing their advance." His voice came back, heavy with something that might have been sorrow. "Understood, Captain. Begin preparation for Level 1 response." "Yes, sir." Hesitated. "Sir, do you think any of them understand what is coming?" "No," said quietly. "They never do, not until it is too late." The channel closed. The countdown continued. 24 hours, until the galaxy learned why humanity had built a cage around itself. Deep in the asteroid belt of an unnamed system, Chief Engineer Sora sat in front of her control panel. She was a small woman with gray in her hair and scars on her hands. She had built things her whole life. Machines, systems, weapons. She knew every wire, every circuit, every line of code in the system she now controlled. She did not want to use it. Her communicator crackled. Captain Park's voice came through. "Engineer, status report." "Ready, Captain." Sora's voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly. "The swarm is armed. All units are online, just waiting for the final command." There was a pause, then spoke again, softer this time. "I know this is hard, Sora. I know what we built these things for. I know what they can do." "We built them to never be used," said Sora. "That was the promise. That was why I agreed to work on the project. I know, but they gave us no choice. We warned them, we begged them, they laughed and kept coming. Sora closed her eyes. She thought about her son, working on a farm colony near Earth. Her daughter, studying medicine on Mars. All the children who would grow up safe because of what she was about to do. All the children who would never grow up at all. "Give the order, Captain," she said. "Let's get this over with." His voice was firm now. "Engineer Sora, by the authority of the Unified Defense Council, you are ordered to release the swarm. Level 1 response. God forgive us all." Sora pressed the button. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, across human space, 1,000,000 points of light began to glow. In asteroids, in moons, in debris fields that had floated silent for centuries. Tiny machines, each one no bigger than a human fist, began to wake up. The swarm had been sleeping for 200 years, waiting, hoping they would never be needed. Now they were awake, and they were very, very fast. On the Conqueror's Pride was eating his evening meal when the alarm started. Red lights flashed everywhere. Sirens screamed through the ship. "What is happening?" he roared, throwing his food aside. "Unknown contacts," shouted his officer. "Millions of them, they came from nowhere there. They're everywhere." Ran to the bridge. What he saw on the screens made his blood freeze. Tiny objects, millions of tiny objects, moving faster than anything he had ever seen. They swarmed around his fleet like insects around a light. They were so small that the ship's weapons could not track them, so fast that the shields could not stop them. And they were eating his ships. Not destroying, eating. The tiny machines attached themselves to the hull and began taking it apart, piece by piece. They found the engines and disabled them. They found the weapons and removed them. They found the communication systems and silenced them. "Fire, fire everything," screamed. His ships fired. Missiles exploded. Energy beams lit up space. But for every tiny machine they destroyed, 1,000 more took its place. It was like trying to fight the ocean with a sword. Observer watched in horror as the machines worked with perfect precision. They did not kill. They did not destroy. They simply removed. Every system that made the ship dangerous was carefully, surgically taken apart. "They are not trying to kill us," he whispered. "They are trying to capture us, all of us, the entire fleet." In 3 hours it was over. 3,000 warships floated dead in space. No engines, no weapons, no communications, no power except for basic life support. The greatest military force in the Dominion's history, reduced to 3,000 metal coffins drifting in the void. Not a single was dead, but not a single could fight. Sat in the darkness of his bridge, surrounded by silent screens and useless controls. His mighty flagship was nothing but a prison now. He could not move. He could not call for help. He could not do anything except wait. What are they?" he asked no one. Answered from the shadows. "They are what happens when humans decide to end a war without fighting one. They are precision. They are patience. They are 200 years of preparation for this exact moment." "But why?" His voice cracked. "Why not just destroy us? It would be faster, easier." "Because they do not want to destroy," said quietly. "They want to teach. They want us to understand. They want us to go back and tell everyone what happened here." He looked at them with something like pity. "We thought they were weak because they chose not to fight. We were wrong. They are not weak. They are controlled. There is a difference, a terrible, terrible difference." Days passed. They sat in their dead ships, waiting for death that did not come. Then the human ships appeared. Not warships, rescue vessels, medical ships. They came with food, water, medicine. They opened the airlocks and helped the soldiers out. They treated the wounded. They fed the hungry. They even freed the bound ones, the slave species that served on ships. They offered them sanctuary, safety, freedom. Watched as humans carried injured soldiers on stretchers, as human doctors treated wounds, as human hands gave children clean water and warm blankets. "I do not understand," he said. "We came to destroy you. We came to enslave you. Why are you helping us?" Captain Park stood before him. She looked tired, sad, but her eyes were still steady. "Because we are not monsters," she said. "We could have killed you all, every ship, every soldier, every child. It would have been easy. Our machines can do much more than disable." She leaned closer. "But we chose not to. We chose mercy. We chose to show you that humanity's strength is not in destruction. It is in knowing when destruction is not necessary." She stepped back. "Go home, tell your Dominion what happened here. Tell them about the boundary stones. Tell them about the warning. And tell them that what you experienced was level 1. His face went pale. "Level 1, there are more levels." "There are 7, said. "You saw the gentlest response. The one designed to capture, not kill. The one that leaves everyone alive." Her voice grew cold. "Pray you never see level 2. The human ships towed the disabled fleet to neutral space and released them. 3,000 ships, hundreds of thousands of soldiers, all alive, all unharmed. All completely, utterly defeated without a single shot being fired." The galaxy watched, and for the first time, the galaxy understood why humanity had built a cage around itself. It was not because they were afraid of others. It was because others should be afraid of them. The footage spread across the galaxy like fire. Every species, every world, every station, they all watched the same recordings. 3,000 warships, the greatest fleet ever assembled, disabled in 3 hours by machines smaller than a child's hand. No battle, no glory, no chance to fight back. Just silence, then defeat. The Galactic Council met in emergency session. Ambassadors from 100 species crowded into the Great Hall, all of them talking at once. Fear filled the room like a living thing. "How is this possible?" demanded the ambassador from the Empire. "They had 3,000 ships. The humans have only 400. "Ships do not matter," said an old ambassador from the Republic. His voice was quiet, but everyone listened. They were ancient. They remembered things other species had forgotten. Ships are tools. The humans did not fight with ships. They fought with something else, something we have never seen before. "What?" asked the ambassador. "What could defeat 3,000 ships without firing a single weapon?" The ambassador looked at him with sad eyes. Patience, preparation, and the willingness to wait 200 years for a war that might never come. Before anyone could respond, the screens lit up. A human face appeared. Representative Han, Earth's voice to the galaxy. She was a small woman with kind eyes and silver hair. She looked like someone's grandmother. She looked harmless. After what the galaxy had just seen, no one believed that anymore. "Good day to you all," said. Her voice was warm and polite. "I am sure you have many questions. I will try to answer them." 100 voices shouted at once, waited calmly until they quieted down. "First, let me say this clearly. Humanity does not want war. We have never wanted war. The boundary stones exist because we want to be left alone. That is all. We ask nothing from you. We take nothing from you. We simply want to live in peace within our borders." "Then why attack the?" shouted someone. "We did not attack them," said gently. "They attacked us. They crossed our boundary. They ignored our warning. They chose to continue even after we gave them one final chance to turn back. What happened was not an attack. It was a consequence." She paused. "Every species has the right to defend itself. That is a basic law of the universe. We defended ourselves. We could have done much worse. We chose not to." The ambassador stood up. "You speak of choice, but you have shown the galaxy that you have weapons beyond anything we can imagine. How do we know you will not use them against us? How do we know you will not conquer us all?" Smiled, it was a sad smile. "Because if we wanted to conquer, we would have done it 200 years ago. We had the technology then. We have more now. We could take your worlds. We could enslave your people. We could rule this entire galaxy." Her smile faded. "We choose not to. Every day we choose not to. That is what the boundary stones represent, not a warning to you, a reminder to us, a reminder of what we are, what we could become, what we must never become again." "Again," the ambassador leaned forward. "You speak as if you were conquerors before." Was silent for a long moment. "We were worse than conquerors," she said finally. "Long ago, before we left humans fought each other. We killed each other by the millions, by the billions. We built weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds. We created poisons that could kill every living thing on a planet. We made machines that could think and learn and hate." Her voice grew heavy. "We almost destroyed ourselves. Many times. We came so close to ending our own species that we could taste the ashes on our tongues. And then, finally, we stopped. We looked at what we had become and we were horrified." She gestured to something off-screen. "That horror gave birth to the boundary stones. We said, no more. No more expansion. No more conquest. No more becoming the monsters we almost became. We drew a line around ourselves and swore we would never cross it." The room was silent. "The thought our limits made us weak," continued. "They were wrong. Our limits make us strong, because limits require strength. It takes no courage to fight. It takes great courage to choose not to fight when you know you would win." She looked directly at the camera. "You have seen level 1, a gentle response. Capture without killing, defeat without death. The fleet survived. Every soldier returned home alive. We even freed their slaves and gave them new lives." Her eyes hardened. "There are 6 more levels. Each one is worse than the last. I pray you never see any of them." A young ambassador raised his hand. What is level 7? Did not answer immediately. She seemed to be thinking carefully about her words. "Level 7 has no survivors," she said slowly. "It was used once, a long time ago, against ourselves." The silence was absolute. "We do not speak of level 7. We do not think about level 7. It exists only as a memory, a warning, a promise that we will never, ever use it again." She straightened up. "Unless someone forces us to. Unless someone pushes us past all other options. Unless someone threatens not just our territory but our very existence." She let that sink in. "We built the boundary stones so that would never happen. We gave warnings so that would never happen. We showed mercy to the so that would never happen." Her voice softened. "We are not your enemies. We do not want to be your enemies. We just want to live in peace. Please, let us have that peace. Do not make us become what we used to be." The transmission ended. For a long time, no one in the Galactic Council spoke. What could they say? They had just learned that the quiet species in 12 solar systems, the ones who never expanded, never threatened, never conquered, had weapons that made the greatest military fleet in the galaxy look like toys. And they had chosen not to use those weapons to destroy. They had chosen mercy. The ambassador stood up slowly. "I have lived for 300 years, he said. "I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched species burn worlds and slaughter billions for a few more light years of territory. In all that time, I have never seen a species choose restraint when they had the power to destroy." He looked around the room. "The humans are not dangerous because of their weapons. They are dangerous because they understand something we have forgotten, that true power is not in what you can do. It is in what you choose not to do." He sat down. "Leave them alone for all our sakes. Leave them alone." The Galactic Council agreed. A new law was passed. The boundary stones were to be respected. Human space was to be left in peace. Anyone who violated that peace would face the galaxy's judgment. Not because the galaxy loved humanity. Because the galaxy feared what humanity might become if they were pushed too far. And somewhere on Earth, Admiral turned off his screen and allowed himself one small moment of relief. The cage had held. The monster had stayed locked away. For now, 50 years passed. The galaxy changed. Empires rose and fell. Wars were fought and won and lost. Species expanded, contracted, evolved, died. Time moved forward as it always does. But one thing stayed the same. No one crossed the boundary stones. Elder Park stood at the observation window of a small transport ship. Her hair was white now. Her face was lined with age. Her hands, once so steady on the controls of a warship, now trembled slightly. She was 87 years old. And she was visiting the boundary one last time. Captain stood beside her, was young, barely 30, with bright eyes and a quick smile. She commanded the new border fleet, a job that had become mostly ceremonial. There was nothing to defend against anymore. No one dared to cross. "There it is," said softly. The boundary stone floated before them, massive and dark and eternal. Its ancient message still broadcast in every language. This is human territory. We do not expand beyond this point. We do not permit others to cross this point. This is not a request. This is humanity's only warning. But there was something else now. Ships. Dozens of ships from dozens of species floating peacefully near the stone. Not warships, pilgrim vessels. They had come to see the monument, to understand. "They call it the monument to restraint now," said. "Species come from across the galaxy just to look at it. They bring their children. They teach them about what happened here." Nodded slowly. "I know, I have seen the crowds grow every year. It surprises me every time." "Why?" asked. "You saved the galaxy from you showed everyone that power does not have to mean destruction." "We did not save the galaxy," said. "We saved ourselves. We saved ourselves from becoming the thing we fear most." Was quiet for a moment. Then she asked the question that everyone wanted to ask, the question that had haunted the galaxy for 50 years. "Elder, what is level 7? What did we do to ourselves?" Did not answer immediately. She stared at the boundary stone, her old eyes distant, seeing things that could not see. "A long time ago," she said finally, "before we left Earth, before the unified council, before the boundary stones. Humanity was different. We were brilliant and creative and full of fire, but we were also cruel, so very cruel." She closed her eyes. "We built weapons that could crack planets in half. We created diseases that could sterilize entire worlds. We made thinking machines that learned to hate faster and better than we ever could. And then, we used them, against each other." "The Great Burning," whispered. She had heard of it. Everyone had heard of it, but no one talked about the details. "Yes, the Great Burning." His voice was heavy. "Billions died. Billions more wished they had died. Earth itself was so badly that some wounds still have not healed. We came within days of ending our own species." She opened her eyes. "Level 7 is not a weapon, Captain. It is a memory. The memory of what we did to ourselves. The memory of standing in the ashes of our own civilization and realizing that we had done this. Not aliens, not monsters, us, just us." She turned to face. "The boundary stones are not a warning to others. They are a promise to ourselves. A promise that we will never forget what we are capable of. That we will never let ourselves become that thing again." Looked at the crowds of alien ships, at the pilgrims who had come to learn from humanity's example. "But it worked," she said. "The cage worked. We chose restraint, we chose mercy, we became better." "Did we?" His voice was gentle but sad. "Or are we just waiting? Every day we make the choice to stay inside the boundaries. Every day we look at our weapons and decide not to use them. But the weapons are still there. The knowledge is still there. The darkness is still there inside us, waiting." She smiled slightly. "That is what makes us dangerous, Captain. Not our technology, not our weapons, our nature. We are a species that had to build a cage around itself because we could not trust ourselves without it." Thought about this. Outside, a small alien ship approached the boundary stone. Its markings were unfamiliar. A young species, perhaps, one that had not yet learned the lessons that older species knew. "What if someone forces us past all 7 levels?" she asked quietly. "What happens then?" Was silent for a long time. "Then we become what we were," she said finally. "And the galaxy learns why we were so desperate to build a cage." The small alien ship circled the boundary stone. Young aliens pressed their faces against the windows, pointing and talking excitedly. Their elders pulled them back gently, showing them recordings of the fleet, showing them what happened to those who did not listen. "Look at them," said, "they are teaching their children about us, about restraint, about choice. Maybe that is our real gift to the galaxy, not our technology, our example." Watched the young aliens learning. She thought about all the years she had spent defending the boundary, all the hard choices she had made, all the times she had wondered if humanity would ever truly change. "Perhaps," she said, "perhaps we have given them something valuable. The knowledge that power does not have to corrupt, that strength does not have to mean destruction, that even the most dangerous species in the galaxy can choose to be gentle." She placed her wrinkled hand on the window. "Or perhaps we have just shown them what fear looks like, what it means to be so afraid of yourself that you lock yourself away." "Is that a bad thing?" asked. "I do not know," admitted. "I have spent my whole life not knowing, but I do know one thing." She turned to face one last time. "As long as we keep choosing restraint, as long as we keep choosing mercy, as long as we keep the cage locked, there is hope, hope that we really have changed, hope that the darkness inside us will stay asleep forever." She smiled, and for a moment she looked young again. "That is enough, that has to be enough." Outside, the alien pilgrims finished their visit and turned to leave. But before they went, each ship bowed toward the boundary stone, a gesture of respect, of gratitude, of understanding. The galaxy no longer feared humanity because of what they could do. The galaxy respected humanity because of what they chose not to do. And that, in the end, was the greatest victory of all. Elder Park watched the ships depart, carrying their lessons back to 1,000 different worlds. The boundary stones would continue to broadcast their warning. The cage would remain locked, and humanity would continue to make the choice every single day to be better than what they were. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to. And somewhere in the darkness of space, the old weapons slept on, dreaming of wars that would never come. Waiting, hopping, praying that they would never wake up again.